Just want to let you lot know that if you're watching this clip on the Fozcast YouTube channel, the full episode is now available to watch exclusively on Spotify, and it's free. Come on.
More recently, you obviously were working with CBS Golazzo. One thing I wanted to ask you about was, and I know you've worked with American TV in the past, but the Americanisms around football and soccer, because I watched something with you earlier on, and you said, listen, I'm doing this for American network, so I'm going to say soccer if it's in the UK.
You didn't say soccer, did you?
I'm bilingual.
Yeah, that's horrible. Who do you think you are?
Well, it's what they call it.
Yeah, they do.
And they call American football
I know.
football. So I have no problem with that. I'm used to it as well. But they use all sorts of different terminology as well.
Does that take a bit of getting used to? Or is you just...
Not really, because I don't use their terminology.
Yeah.
But the way they... Listen, if it grows the game, it helps the game. Who cares?
Have you found working over there a lot different to what it's like over here? Bit more relaxed?
Yes and no. Player access is better.
Yeah.
You know, so doing interviews in the dressing room. How would you have gone with that after the game?
That's weird. That's really weird.
Well, yeah, how would you have reacted? Because you see it in NFL, MLS.
I did it in when Steve Gerrard was in LA. I went in the dressing room afterwards. You know, the coach has his moment with the players, etc. Then all the media stood outside. In you go. You can go around, pick off who you like. What do you think today? What do you think of that?
But I love it. I think it's great. The access is phenomenal, and it's been going on in America for years, hasn't it? They've been doing it in the AFL. They've always had that access, so it is just the norm out there.
Yeah.
Over here, though, there's no chance that would happen. Not for a while. Eventually, it might start to come around to it, but for a while, if I was playing a game and then we were in the change rooms afterwards, and all of a sudden reporters started coming in, you would want to just tell them to get out.
Is that because it's your safe space, Ben?
Yeah, it's your safe space. And not only that, you know that the emotions after a game are still so raw and anything can kick off. If you've just been pumped 7-0 by Man City, for example, and you've got you guys coming in, how was that? And you sat down and you got your mates next to you. It's horrible.
It'll come.
The other thing I would say is, and obviously lots of things are proposed, it's like manager interviews at half time. Unless it actually gives the viewer something, unless it actually enhances the coverage, it's a pointless gimmick.
I know what you mean.
So if they start going in dressing rooms and the interviews are poor because players are conscious of the other players around them, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I think they would be too. I think they'd be too worried about what their mate next to them would think.
Well, that goes back to what I said right at the start of this. Players are still conscious.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
Of what their teammates say.
Yeah.
How many times did you hammer a teammate for something he said or did? Doesn't take much, does it?
Yeah, you got to be so careful. You could have had somebody who had an absolute stinker that day and still you'd tread on eggshells with what you said about it. Because you wouldn't want to offend him. Or the other lad's thinking, he's bang out of order, he shouldn't have said that. He's had a bad day, just leave him alone, all right?
Or busy so-and-so.
Busy so-and-so. Geoff, thank you so much for coming today. Really appreciated your time. Incredible podcast as well. Before we go, though...
Ivanovic?
We've got to talk about Ivanovic.
I can't go on any podcast without somebody asking about Ivanovic.
It's so good, though, mate.
Right, okay. Give me your perception of it. What happened?
So, Champions League semi-final.
Were you watching it at the time?
I was watching it at the time. And
what did you think?
First of all, let me just break down Ivanovic as a character. You can tell he's a sensitive soul. You can tell he's a nice guy. He's a little bit shy, actually. He's a little bit shy.
Don't disagree.
And it's just kind of the way that you sprung it on him. And it's as if, obviously, you thought he knew. You must have thought that he knew, right?
Keep going.
Yeah. And it's just the way that you said, and obviously now you missed the final. And it's his, and it just hits him. It's the way that it just hits him. And that's the first he's heard of it. It's from Geoff Shreeves right after the Champions League semi-final. And you've got to think, this is a big deal as well. He gets to play in a Champions League final, or so he thinks. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, rug pulled from underneath you.
The man who killed Bambi's mother, you mean, basically. Right, here's the truth. New camp, tunnel, hardwired, so I'm not mobile. I've got my back to the players. In the game itself, this is how this thing has built up a life of its own. So, in the game, so he had been booked. I bet you can't tell me why he was booked.
No.
Exactly. So we weren't sure. We saw a yellow card brandished, but we didn't know who had been booked. And we tried to check with UEFA. They weren't sure. If it's him, we know he's not in the final because we know he's already on a yellow card. The reason he was booked, when they conceded a penalty, when Didier gave a pen away. He scuffed up the penalty spot.
Oh,
Ungentlemanly yes, right, okay. So we're not sure, but okay, it's not a big deal. I won't be speaking to him. I'm stood there, Petr Cech, safe pair of hands, quite literally.
Yeah.
Ashley Cole. I'm about to start. They throw to me. Somebody puts Ivanovic on the end. Honestly, I'd rather they'd put Jack the Ripper on the end. It's the last person in the world. So I'm thinking now the elephant is in the room. The elephant is in front of me.
Are you looking at his body language here though and thinking?
Yeah.
Are you gauging it?
And there's no clue whatsoever.
You can tell that he has got no clue.
Honestly, this thing gets worse. So these two, are in the final, and I think, well, I can't ignore him completely, but I've got a problem now because if I go to say to him, Bran, fantastic, you're in the final. He says, what are you talking about, you fool? I've just been booked.
I'm missing it, yeah.
Or if he's not been booked, I've got to tell him he's not in the final. So I've got to find a halfway house. So I said to him, so we don't know. So I say, you do, not sure, I say, I'm not sure if you were booked, but you do realise if you were booked, you're not in the final. And he sort of does this shake of the head and says, no, yes, I think so. And it's kind of a...
yes, no, maybe.
It's no answer whatsoever. And he doesn't seem to comprehend. So I go back and say, but if you've been booked, you're not in the final. And it still doesn't go anywhere. So then, off he trots. And you know what it's like. If I'd been out of order or gone after him, JT or Frank, one of the senior players would have come down and said, you're out of order. And we'd have got no more interviews. No problem. We've got all the players, the coaches, and all the rest of it. I'm walking back to the hotel, phone's like...
Pinging.
Oh, best was Lee Westwood. Geoff Shreeves has just told me I've never won a major. So I'm getting battered left, right and centre. And then, anyway, what was the problem was, so he didn't know and he didn't realise. Could I have handled it more sensitively? Arguably, probably. I could have said, look, we don't know whether or not you were booked. Yeah. And it obviously, I should have signposted it. If you've been booked, it's heartbreaking because you've just been an absolute hero out there and you can't play in the final. So I got a load of stick from Chelsea fans and people thought that I deliberately tried to make him cry or all this nonsense, which there's no way you're going to have any sort of career or relationship as a journalist if you're that type of character, which I'm not. It's a full, maybe 14 years or whatever later, he's at West Brom. However many years later it was. Yes, so 2014, so probably 10, 12. Ali Rudd, journalist for the Times, she's a terrific writer. She was doing a feature with him. She said, can I just ask you one thing about the Champions League final, your interview with Geoff Shreeves? Yeah. He said, the Chelsea staff had decided not to remind the players that were on a yellow card going into the game because they didn't want them focusing about it. Okay, you could argue you should know.
Yeah.
He said, that was number one. He said, and I wasn't sure if I was booked. He said, so when I did the interview with Geoff, it was the first I kind of heard it. So I was a little bit surprised. So I didn't know. So I went into the dressing room. I partied. I enjoyed. It was only when I got on the coach and I looked at my phone, I realised what was happening. He said, I've got no problem with Geoff whatsoever. And I spoke to Geoff subsequently and there's no problem at all.
Brilliant.
It wasn't a perfect storm. It was a perfect storm. when he scored in the Europa League final, I texted him.
Yeah.
I said, brilliant. I said, you're already a Chelsea legend, and now you're remembered the most for that goal and for not that
Geoff Shreeves
effing interview. Yeah. And he literally replied from the dressing room. Yeah, haha, cheers, thanks. Sort of thing.
Thanks everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed this clip of the Fozcast. If you would like to watch the full episode, it is now available exclusively on Spotify for free.